you got to start.
Maybe we could do like an interview.
Hi everyone, welcome to the Student Speaker Series. So the Student Speaker Series is meant to allow students the opportunity for a voice and a platform to synthesize collegiate level skills with the ideas and topics that deeply interest them while honing their speaking skills and giving us the chance to learn from them. So tonight, please welcome Dane, Riva, and David McNitt, who will be talking about their trips to the tropics.
All right, my name is Dane Riva. I'm a senior Fish and Wildlife student here at Paul Smith's. And I went to Panama for all of winter break for around 35 days or so. I worked at a Primate Sanctuary, and I'll just give you a little bit of download on my trip. For those who don't know, many of people like say, "Oh, you went to Panama, or is that in Africa?" I'm not sure exactly what it is. But that's where it is, right there, the dot, and this is the country itself. Which is really convenient. I've gone to Costa Rica many times, and so I'm pretty familiar. I've gone surf trips and kind of spent time with my cousins down there, which I didn't really know. Panama is a little different. There's a little bit less tourism, so there's a little bit less speaking of English. And I'm not of the, I can't speak really any Spanish. So when I flew there from Miami, I landed in obviously Panama City, which is right there. And so what I had to do is I took a bus, 8-hour bus trip to Dane, right there. So that was a good way to obviously get out of my comfort zone right off the bat. I was sweating in a bus terminal, trying to do hand signals to get to where I was going to go, with no phone, didn't know anybody. So it's right there. That's just a great learning experience. If you guys ever get to go travel by yourself, right off the bat, out of my comfort zone. That's Panama City right there. Really well-developed city. I think it's the largest city in Central America, actually. I didn't get any spending time there. I was in and out to get to Apirl Sanctuary, and which is near Dane, in the kind of the mountains area. So I finally made it to Dane after my long trip. I made it to the sanctuary, excuse me, and which was nice. I got there at night, and Apirl Sanctuary has been. It's quite new. It was a botanical garden for a while, and it was just bought by Seth and Joe Lee. And right now they run it as a research rehabilitation center, and they do a lot of other things. And just a symbol of conservation for the area and for the Nobe people, which are the local villagers. This is the kind of layout. Behind me is where I stayed. To the left is the kitchen, and this is the kind of little platform area where everyone just hang out. Whenever you did have free time. So what they had there is all the animals they had at the sanctuary were from the pet trade. And this is obviously one of the big projects there is to rehabilitate and help injured or mistreated wild animals, which are part of the pet trade, which is, as many of you know, is a pretty messed up thing. And so a lot of these animals I'll talk about today have bad histories, have been treated badly, and so the idea is to rehabilitate them. So some of the animals they had there were, the main animal that we worked with, a lot of the research I worked with was mantle howler monkeys, which I'm actually doing my management plan on, looking to increase the population. But at Apirl, they had 2 baby howler monkeys, which you see in this photo here, Nina and Coco, which are super cute. Howler monkeys are really laid-back monkeys. They spend most of their time in the canopy, kind of just hanging out in the wild. These 2 were, again, given to us from people that were either mistreating them or just through the pet trade in general. We had Joffrey's tamarin, we had 2 of them. In the wild, they're in large troops of maybe 30 or 35 individuals. If you can imagine, they're about this big. You'll see a video. And they all run around, they're really active. And these 2, again, were I think, maybe there before the sanctuary was made. And so the 2 names were Razor and Mr. T, as you can see in the photos. It's a good name for him. We had a kinkajou, which I don't know if you can see very well there. It's kind of a nocturnal, raccoonish kind of species. It's very strange, but it was in a cage with one of the capuchins, one of the white-faced capuchins, which are the most animated of the group. at Alabata, there was 3 white-faced capuchins there. And these are just like bipolar, crazy mess. Just like what you think of a monkey, this is a monkey. So we had 3 there. One who I got really close with, his name was Cloud. He was in that enclosure which you see before this. He's 10 years old, and he was mistreated. He was tied up in a hospital and treated really badly. So we had some emotional problems, like if 2 of us walked up to the cage and one was a girl, he'd actually really be aggressive to the female. So he didn't like females. Stuff like that, you can just kind of hypothesize why that would be. Maybe he was mistreated that way. You know, they're smart monkeys, they remember stuff. This is Ninja, and then we had another one with Ace, and then, so those 2 were outside the whole time. We did a soft release with them, which is basically you release them and you say, you know, you can do your thing, you can be free if you want, but of course they know where the food is, and so most of the time they just cause a ruckus near the sanctuary, hanging out, cuddling with us, or but what we try to do is try to keep them, you know, to stay wild, but most of the time they're just hanging out in the sanctuary, so that was cool. So this is a picture of Ace and Ninja, and then my dog Amigo. He's like the old father time of the sanctuary. He's been there. I didn't really know. And this is a picture of him grooming Amigo, which they would do all the time. They just be sitting there grooming the dog. But just to give you an example, like my first time there, I get to the sanctuary, I'm kind of excited to work with monkeys and stuff, and he just jumped right next to me. And you don't really think about it, but I got nervous. It's like, he's sitting there and he's all like monkeyed out, and he's looking at me like, what? So it's like, it's kind of like, it's like you've seen the movies, like your first day in jail. You gotta like, you gotta like, you know, show what you're made of, because they can, you know, if they don't have respect, they'll kind of treat you not very well. So for example, Ninja would break into the kitchen, which I didn't really know was that happened. So for example, I was like by myself one time, hanging out, and next thing you know, there's a monkey in the kitchen. He's breaking eggs, he's breaking plates, and so I got to go in there and control the monkey and get him out of the kitchen. So it's quite the experience, being able to, you know, go in there and be like, you know, this is our kitchen, get out of here. So Ninja is always an entertaining fella. So just a normal day at the sanctuary. We had many chores to do. If you weren't doing the research projects that I'll talk about, you were doing tons of chores. Like there's always stuff to do. There was monkey cage to be cleaned. You know, these are, if some of these primates are in enclosures, so you have to obviously keep them really clean. And feeding them is really important, obviously. So that was always top priority, just maintaining the sanctuary. So I have a video here of us feeding the primates for a little bit. I'll show like half or so of it. That's Cloud. Those dogs are so annoying. Just clean up their poop all day long. All day. There's Dina. She's my girl. That is Razor. conflict with her and Cloud sometimes. 'Cause he was in the cage with her. So nothing too bad, just some food problems. But you know, you'll have that with any roommate. So the research projects we did, rehabilitation, troop ID, behavioral follows, and transects. These are all through, at the sanctuary, we collect all the data, and we actually send it to one of the directors, family members who, I believe goes, she's a primatologist at Texas, or in Texas. And so she kind of, structured all of these studies, and then we conduct them and kind of send the research to her. The first one's rehabilitation. And so, like I said, they have 2 baby howler monkeys that we're rehabilitating, and that the idea is to send them to a wild troop. So on my lap there, I have my ethogram, which is a behavioral study. So what we'll do is we'll take the monkeys out, we'll put them in a tree, and then every 5 minutes you mark the behavior: resting, feeding, foraging, human interaction. If they come to you, you have to write that down. Because like I mentioned earlier, the native troops, or wild troops in general, they're all in the canopy their whole life. That's the native behavior. That's a natural behavior. So that's what we want these monkeys to do, and they've actually done that. They've successfully rehabilitated, I believe, 2 or maybe more individuals. So it can be done, and this data just kind of helps us show what a real howler monkeys is supposed to, or wild monkey is supposed to be like. But as you can see, sometimes Nina was not having tree life. She just sometimes wanted to just relax and just hang out on my shoulder or my back. Yeah, this is just them I was trying to get them to take a photo with me. They weren't cooperating very well. So troop identification, this is when you go out with, and at this same time, you're with another intern. This is when you have, for any research project you do, you have two interns with you. And so for this one, you go out and you actually try to identify wild troops. And there were about 3 or so that were in the area. So this basically is you're going out, you find the wild troop, and then you have to figure a way to identify them. As you can see by this photo, a lot of the monkeys look very similar. So I'll give you a tip of how we actually identify them. They don't have spots like jaguars, but they're actually pretty, yeah, don't look at that too long, I'm going to blind you there, sorry. But yeah, we actually do it by their genitals, and because they're, most howler monkeys look very similar, other than their genitals. So we had to basically going out with binoculars and looking up at monkey genitals while you're doing this troop ID. But it works, and you can imagine what the field booklet looks like for identifying. So we have one of those. You need to know what individual we're looking for, so you're looking through the pamphlet. It's funny, and you can imagine being out there with somebody else, you'd be like, look it up. What do you think that is? I'm not really sure. It's a fun time. And howler monkeys in general exhibit some interesting behavior.